And so now I want to introduce Mr. Colt Hardy. He is our Ag Student Association president, and he is going to formally introduce Dr. Robinson for us. Take it away, Colt.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. George Robinson III of Chicago, Illinois. He's an alumnus of LSU, where he earned a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine degree in 1981. He also has a master's in public health from the Howard University School of Medicine and a BS from Southern University. Dr. Robinson is the president and CEO of Heartland Veterinary Partners, a Chicago-based veterinary support organization with the mission to improve the lives of veterinarians. He has over 30 years of veterinary industry experience, holding numerous clinical, operational, and senior management roles throughout his career. Prior to joining Heartland Veterinary Partners, Dr. Robinson held senior management and operational roles at National Veterinary Associates and Banfield Pet Hospital. Prior to that, he owned and operated successful veterinary hospitals in Louisiana. While practicing in New Orleans, he served on numerous blue ribbon panels and civic and governmental boards, including as chairman of the New Orleans City Planning and Zoning Commission. He was recognized as the LSU Vet School's Distinguished Alumnus of the Year. This award recognizes alumni for outstanding professional accomplishments, personal achievements, and contributions to the community of public service. We're very excited to have Dr. Robinson as our first speaker this fall. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Robinson. Sorry about that.
Thanks, Colt.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Thank you for that introduction. You probably heard this before. For a minute, I was wondering who that was. I was like, oh, it's me. I assume you can hear me okay. If anyone has any difficulty, let me know. I put together quite a few slides, maybe to help visualize things a bit, but it's going to be just me kind of telling the story and trying to answer some questions maybe ahead of time. But certainly I would love to hear your questions too and give you insight into who I am and what I do. It's definitely not rocket science. And I always tell people that all these families didn't create all these geniuses. I mean, a lot of this is just opportunity, hard work, and most of all, luck. So we'll talk about that, and certainly I'm happy to answer any questions. So if we move on through my slides, I am going to reduce this so I can see what I'm saying. There you go. So I am the CEO of Heartland Veterinary Partners. Went to LSU, went to Southern, and got a master's in public health over at Howard University in DC. During my time practicing in New Orleans, I was the VP or Vice President of Louisiana Board of Veterinary Medicine. And I've always kind of been an organization guy. When I was at the veterinary school, I was the student chapter of the AVMA president. I worked with the yearbook as the editor. We had a big symposium I helped work with. So I've always liked working with people and creating a group dynamic. So I would say that that's one skill or situation that has helped me in my career. Recently, I served as chairman of a panel with the American Veterinary Medical Association, where we put together a study on telemedicine. I'm from Louisiana, born and raised in Baton Rouge. I went to Southern Lab and then went to Southern for undergraduate school. We'll get to kind of, I guess, the how and why of some of this stuff. But when I got to New Orleans, I guess one of the things that always concerned me, when you're in a city and you become a part of the community, it's like, okay, if you see something going on, what are you going to do about it? And I always said, well, the best way to help solve problems is to get in there and be a part of the solution. So when asked, I served on a lot of political and civic boards, ran for public office a few times. I always tell people I ran 6 times and lost 2. but the two that I won were pretty exciting. I was a state party committee member and also a parish committee member. Been on a lot of civic boards, where I try to use my expertise to contribute to making something better. And presently, I'm a member of the LSU Foundation Board of Directors. So being an organization guy, being a person who likes to kind of see things happen, it's helped me connect with doctors all over the world, practically, in all different facets of the industry. And I'll go into a little more detail in that too. So in 2016, I had done a lot of other work. You can go ahead and switch to the next slide. I'd done a lot of work. I had my practices in Louisiana. I sold those and I went to Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know if I thought I was retiring or what I was doing, but I left Louisiana and went to Atlanta and worked with a group practice. Well, that moved me into a situation where I had what's called a non-compete clause, meaning when you leave a business, they don't want you to work in the area because you'll steal their business. So I moved to Florida and decided, well, I'll join Banfield, the pet hospital. It's a corporate practice. I don't like corporate. I'll go ahead and do it for a little while. So I got in there, and by circumstance or whatever, they enjoyed me being in management. So they pushed me into different management roles. They moved me from Florida to California. And in California, they asked me to start, I think I was in San Diego was my area of management. Then I went to, they said, well, George, can you add Orange County? So I added Orange County, no problem. So one day they said, George, you're doing great. Could you add Arizona? I'm like, okay. Then they said, well, George, could you add Las Vegas? And I got really quiet. And they said, George, you okay? Why are you so quiet? I said, I hope you don't change your mind. Because I love Las Vegas. It's a fun place for me. So I managed the practices in Vegas, in addition to the others. And eventually it became the Western United States, and I became the director for the Western United States. So it ended up being 198 locations. So when you do that, you're managing per se, but what you're really looking at, no one person can go to 198 places, even in a year. So what you end up doing is you're managing from an upper level, a team of people who help you make those practices successful. That can be successful profit-wise, or also successful just with your people, what we call people capital. I also did locum work. That's called relief work in the veterinary field, where you work in various practices and fill in for doctors. And I enjoyed doing that because when you're the guy who comes in temporarily, the staff tells you everything, all the good, the bad, the ugly. And so I sat there and they didn't know I was like a big leader in veterinary medicine. So I absorbed all of that and gained more insight into how to be a better leader, how to not make the mistakes that I see other people making. So then I joined NVA, National Veterinary Associates. I started in the Midwest, and that's how I got to Chicago, as a manager for 15 practices. And we grew that to 43 practices. And you can go to the next slide. And I got a call from a private equity group. Those are people with a lot of money who said, hey, Dr. George, we've heard great things about you and your management. If you could do, if you had your own thing, what would you do? So I told them all the things that I would do. I would create a company that would be friendly to veterinarians, where we would not interfere with their practicing and everything they're doing, but it would be honest and transparent, very collaborative, professional, disciplined, and it would be very attentive to the needs of partners. And they were like, that's exactly what we want you to do. So that was music to my ears. So with the financing of this equity group, we started with one practice. and grew to what we call Heartland Veterinary Partners. And we grew quite rapidly. I included a couple of slides to just kind of show you what really happened as this transpired. So some of the Georgisms, I call them, and strategies that we use to improve the lives of vets. We created a term called vet-centric, meaning all my managers, people who know me, they're like, Dr. George and his company are very vet-centric. The veterinarian is the center of what we do. We're not going to mess with your medicine. Every practice is going to have its own personality. So we don't want anything to harm what you've done in your community or your legacy. And we're going to be collaborative, and we're going to be empathetic. So having an empathetic approach to management means that the people are the most important thing in what you do. You know, if they took all the EKG machines and ultrasound and countertops and lab equipment, veterinary medicine's people. And one of my isms is, if you take care of the people and support them, the money and the numbers will come. But we want practices that will do that and certainly help and serve their local communities. The practice, if you see that little check that I'm holding there, part of what we do, even on a corporate level, is we give back. That's very important to me. So naturally, one of the first schools that we'd be handing a check to happens to be, you know, LSU, because, you know, I'm a Tiger. So that's just an example of some of the things that we like to do financially, but also with time and effort. Can you hit my next slide, please? So what's Heartland Veterinary Partners? It's a team of people. What you see here is like a little microcosm of my leadership team, where we have, that's not showing very well. Maybe we better move to the next slide. There we go. So as a CEO, I run the company. Part of doing that is having good people to work with you who are specialists in what they do and are willing to have a collaborative approach and essentially listen to what I tell them. And we get in the room and argue and have fun, but decide what we're going to do and how we're going to run a big company. So we have a CDO, that's the Chief Development Officer. We have the Chief Operating Officer. To the right, you have your Chief Financial Officer. And to the right of that, we have a Vice President of Human Resources. And all those roles you see under those are people who work with us. And we also have, it's a little over 200 now. At every practice, we have a managing doctor and a practice manager. So all of those people resonate up and report to me. So as a CEO, I create and set policy. I make sure that things are going well. I make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing, consistent with our vet-centric culture. Next slide. So how did we grow? Well, in 2016, when we first started with our one practice, that one practice probably had a little over $1 million in revenue. And by 2019, we were well over $120 million of revenue. So, you know, I don't usually tell people like what I do, and rarely do we even show these numbers, but running 120, 150, well, it's probably like $189 million business is not the easiest thing in the world to do. But with time and experience, you learn how to manage a company really well. And we're managed really well. So this slide kind of summarizes who we are and how we grow. If you look at well, there's like a staircase there from 116 to $514 million. If you look at the top, the US pet spend, people are spending money on their pets. And with that, veterinary medicine is growing as an attractive business. And it's practically recession proof. When the pandemic first hit, we did take a little hit, but it wasn't severe enough to stop what we're doing. We're an essential business. And so veterinary medicine has actually grown. And pets that are in the shelters, they pretty much cleaned out the shelters because people wanted to have that human companion animal bond at home. And so our company has grown and veterinary medicine has grown. And if you look at that chart, we anticipate probably by 2024 that the company will be worth over $500 million. Next slide. So I'm going to talk about college a little bit. What should you do and what shouldn't you do? And how did college affect who I am and what I do? I was always an organization guy. Like I said, when I was a kid, I guess my first organization was my Boy Scout troop, where I became an Eagle Scout and really got into organizational dynamics. Like, why do people do what they do, and how to get people to agree to work with you to do what you want to do. So you're already doing the right thing. You're participating in your university activities. You participate with different clubs and groups, and all of that is good because it gives you the foundation for collaborating, for getting along. I could not run a $200 million business alone. You have to have people work with you. How do you learn those skills to help you do that? It starts in school, where you are now. Working with groups, learning how to run a meeting, learning how to communicate appropriately, verbally and in writing, so everyone understands what you're talking about. Learning how to persuade and convince people of what your point of view may be, or what you think is good for your club or your organization or for the university. All of those are things I think are really important. What shouldn't you do? You shouldn't do nothing. A lot of times what happens is, we get in an environment and you may look at it and say, oh, this just isn't for me, or whatever, and you kind of isolate yourself and put yourself in a little bubble. I don't ever recommend putting yourself in a bubble in a university environment. Get out there and find someone you can communicate with, or who can help make sure that you are connected with the university as a whole. So don't go into a shell is one thing that I think that you shouldn't do. Next slide, please. And always look for opportunities. I put this quote in there because I thought it was really interesting. In today's environment, successful careers are often developed by taking the road less traveled, or by accepting projects and assignments that may not seem appealing, but they may give you unique opportunities to stand out amongst your peers and other leaders. I have done some of the craziest stuff you ever could imagine. I sold Time Life books. And selling Time Life books gave me so much insight into, it was telemarketing, gave me insight into how to communicate and get your point across quickly, so I can sell those books and move on to the next person. And I used some of my Time Life lessons when I was working on my master's thesis. Who knew that there'd become a connection there? When I stuffed papers also. The little Sunday part of the papers. I would go line up on the weekends. I needed some extra cash, right? So I would go and stuff papers. But one of the things that I learned, I interact a lot, obviously, hanging out with all those homeless guys who were stuffing papers with me. Man, you learn so much about life and what's like really going on. And it gives you such an interesting perspective on things, but it also gives you empathy. Because you may see something from a distance and think, oh, well, it's this, that, and the other. But until you know, you don't really know. And I enjoyed those interactions because it gave me perspective into, what's out there in the world? What are people thinking? And how can at some point I take this knowledge and use it to do better for something, be it for my business or for my community or for society or something. But you don't know all that until you get perspective. So one of the things I think you should do when you're in college and you have plenty of opportunity to get out and do things is do as much as you want. Don't let your grades go down, but stay active and interact and participate. And when you're sitting there and you're planning your future, don't make a to-do list. Make a to-be list. What do I want to be? Put that there, throw it on the wall, whatever you want to do. And from that to-be list, figure out all the different things that are going to make that happen for you. And it's not going to be as clear-cut as you think it is. You're going to have roadblocks and intersections and all kinds of things that are going to come up. But if you keep focused on that goal, at the end of the day, you'll be okay. But you got to stay focused. And that's important too. So many people lose the vision. You got to hold it. Next slide. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about networking because that's important. So I'll tell you the basics. The basic tools, the basic behavior, mentorship, and then the obvious challenge I'll give you at the end. So next slide, I think. What are the basics? Okay, who should you be networking with? Everybody. Now, why is that? Because you'd be amazed at how many people you don't know have an impact on your life. So you just should treat everybody good and network and interact and connect with everybody. Now, that can be your internet friends. It could be, of course, business groups, your social milieu, organizations, and thought leaders. Let me tell you one of the things that was so interesting when I was practicing even. I would maybe have a procedure that I wanted to do, or I was interested in something. Let's say a heart transplant. I'm making this up, okay? I would sit there in my office for a second. I practiced by myself, and I was like, let me read some articles. And I read the article, and it would say, Michael DeBacchi just did this heart surgery in Washington, D.C., this, that, and the other. He wrote this great paper. I'm crazy enough to get on the phone and call him. So I get on the phone and I say, hey, Michael DeBacchi. Yes, that's George Robinson. Well, who are you? Well, I practice veterinary medicine down in New Orleans, and I read your article, and I just had some questions for you. I tell you, it knocks them off their chair. They're like, well, sure. And then you get insight from the #1 person in the world who does this. But who would dream of doing that? You always think, no, I don't want to bother them. You don't know until you try. So I used to do that all the time. So even as a solo veterinary practitioner, I was always able to stay cutting edge because I would just go to the source. Whatever I was interested in, I went to the source. So that's part of networking. So how do you do that where you are now? Do you have a business card? You should. Make a social business card. I mean, just have your name, say who you are, what organization you're with, or what's important for you. Put your number there and your email address. So if you meet someone that you want to try to make a connection with, give them a card. It makes an impact. It says, I'm trying to network. I want to know people. I want to know what you know. Can you tell me? So have a social business card. LinkedIn, create a profile on LinkedIn and use it. If there's something that interests you and you want to reach out to someone, don't be afraid to press that button. and reach out to folks and just say, hey, you know, I'm a student, I'm interested in so-and-so, I'd like to get some insight. For every 5 no's, all you need is 1 yes, right? So do it 6 times, or do it 10 times. Or get a no, go have a soda and come back and hit and ask again. Meetings and social settings. The more, like I was saying, the more that you interact, the more that people get to know who you are and what you're all about. Vader speech. That's not Darth Vader. That's an elevator. So, have you guys heard of elevator speeches? That's by the time you get into the elevator, go up like 10 or 20 floors, and by the time you get out, you should be able to say who you are and what you're about. So you walk into the elevator, boom. My name's George Robinson. I'm the CEO of a veterinary service company, Heartland Veterinary Partners. I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm an LSU Tiger. And we do this, that, the other, la, 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 da, 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 ding. You need to, in your mind, create, or on paper, even better, create an elevator speech for who you are, what you're about, and what impression are you trying to leave by the time you get to that 30th floor. And it should just be clockwork. This is who you are. This is what I'm about. Da, 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 da. And it's called an elevator speech. So that's something that you can work on and even look in the mirror and practice giving it. But you should be able to sell you. If you can't expect anyone else to, right? So you meet a George Robinson out there. You have a quick conversation with them. Ask for their card. Or figure out how to follow up with them, be it on LinkedIn or let me send you an email or whatever. And what are you going to say? All you have to say is keep it simple. Hey, Dr. George, I met you at so-and-so. I enjoyed our meeting, and I'd like to have the opportunity to speak to you sometime in the future if you're ever available. Is that okay? And send that message. But so often you meet someone and they are interesting, or you may not know what the potential connection could be. Go ahead and make the connection and then store that for a rainy day. Next slide, please. Am I running out of time? Whoa, okay. Mentorship. Find a mentor. You can Google mentors and see what that's all about, but a mentor basically is someone who's going to help give you advice as you pursue your career, your college career, post-college, your work career. You want someone to kind of be there as a mentor. You need to ask them, will you be my mentor? Then if you have a mentor, you need to check in with them. In other words, mentors are busy. You're not the only thing on their minds. Nurture that relationship. Check in with them every once in a while. Agree to how often you want to check in with them and create a relationship with a mentor, because there's so many people who've already been through the same road that you're going through, and you can benefit from that knowledge. Next slide. Coaching. All right. The only thing I'm going to say about coaching is like giving you advice. Sometimes it's not advice you want to hear. Are you coachable? Are you approachable? Every time someone tells you something, is it pushback, pushback, pushback? Sometimes you have to create the environment within yourself to accept the good, the bad, in some cases, the ugly about yourself, and take it in, go cry a little bit, come back, and say, how can I be better? How can I be a better person? Or how can I be better at whatever I'm doing? Next slide. So what's the challenge? Okay, just do it. You know, a lot of these things and concepts I'm talking about, this isn't rocket science, and I'm certainly not a rocket scientist. Just do it. Just one day say, doggone it, I'm just going to do it. You have nothing to lose. Whatever those challenges are, understand that to get to a certain level of success, you're going to have challenges and you have to face them. You got to cowboy up, like I say, and face those challenges. And for every challenge you have, in many cases, you may fail. So what? Get over it and move on and keep on pushing. So don't be afraid of failure. Some people are so afraid of failure that it freezes them, so they don't aspire. And you have to like eliminate that fear of failure and understand that everybody, like the George Robinsons of the world, we aren't always successful. Some things just don't go well. And you just dust yourself off and move on to plan B. So I think that's my next slide. Yes, good. Kind of ran through that, but I did want to like impart as much as I could in this little bit of time to just kind of leave some tidbits with you. So do you have questions for me?
And guys, feel free, you can drop your questions in the chat, or I set this so you can unmute yourselves if you want to introduce yourself and ask your question that way as well.
Oh, I see a great question here. If you're a person who's afraid of failure, what's the best advice you can give that person? I would say, I used to be afraid of failure too, to a degree. Affirmations. I used to give myself a lot of self-affirmations, like, you know, the train that, the little wagon that could, and things like that, and things just to encourage me from I'd even put up little Post-it notes on my mirror while I'm shaving and brushing my teeth, just to say, hey, you know, you can do it. You know, you are a good person. You have not even touched your possibilities. And you have to just keep those affirmations. If you listen, back in the day, there were cassette tapes, so you know my age. Just listen to speakers who give positive input, and try to stay as positive as you can if you're very susceptible to negativism. So just positive, positive, positive. Build up such a storehouse of positivity that a little bit of negativism is not going to hurt you. Was I still practicing as a veterinarian? Yes. Throughout all these management roles, was I still practicing as a vet? Yes, and I'm still practicing as a veterinarian. I'm licensed in like 30 states. And at any point, yes, I can practice veterinary medicine. I attend continuing education like crazy, because when you're not doing it every day, you really have to study to stay on top of it. And veterinary medicine changes so rapidly. So yes, I'm still a practicing veterinarian. It's one of those things, I love it so much. You know, you can't do everything. And when I started managing more, and I'm like, well, gosh, I run a $1 million company. I'm like, oh, but I really want to do that orthopedic surgery so bad. But you have to like learn to delegate and let other people do things. That's the only way you're going to grow. So what are the challenges of being a vet that may not seem obvious at first? Ooh, compassion fatigue. And as the demographics of veterinary medicine are changing, meaning there are more women in veterinary medicine than used to be, it's tougher, because I think, you know, women are more sensitive about some things. And, you know, we have to put animals to sleep. We have people who come in and you have all this knowledge that you can't use because they can't afford it. And you almost want to do it for free, but then you're like, but I got loans to pay. And that conflict every day can start wearing you down. You know, it can take your mojo. And so I see that as a big challenge. The other thing is there's so much knowledge, keeping up with it all. I mean, my gosh, I'm studying every day, even as a business person. Then you have to learn the business part. So that influx of knowledge can be overwhelming sometimes too. Uh-oh, I lost some of the chats. Wait a minute, let me get this. These are all great questions. My gosh. Do I have my own clinic now? No, but I'm a very, very big shareholder of Heartland Veterinary Partners, which owns like over 150 clinics. So yeah, I own a clinic in a way. How did I find my passion in life and stay driven throughout the challenges? My passion changes in and out as you see more opportunities, you look at it, but I've always liked to look at the big picture, and I've always had a very strong image of myself. There's probably some people on here who can say, oh yeah, George has a very strong self-image. And you know what? That's my business. You have to, like, if you don't love and you don't think you can do it personally, no one else is going to do that for you. So you really have to do what it takes to keep pushing yourself and giving yourself those positive affirmations I talked about. The best way to manage time in the sense of finding internships, networking, use your time wisely. In college, there's so many different activities and things. I think you kind of get a feel for when you're wasting time. If you have to waste time, like to keep your stability, that's fine too. But you know, you can over party. I over partied for a while, you know, and you have to learn, like, okay, you're a big boy now, take it down and let's focus on what's going to get you to the next step. Fill out those applications, talk to those people you need to, get dedicated time for your mentors. You know, it's a part of the, I guess you can call it maturity, growing up. You got to make some decisions. You can't do everything, but the things that you do should be focused on getting you to whatever is on that to-be list. Did I ever take a W or fail a class? No, I was kind of smart. I was an egghead, man. I mean, I studied my butt off. And then I was kind of lucky too. I just had like a good memory, this, that, and the other. But I think my first year of veterinary school, I thought I was in danger of failing because it was just a new environment and I had to make a lot of adjustments, and it was pretty tough. But I never took a W, and I ended up doing well once I figured out the system. Have you been able to simultaneously hone your vet and improve my leadership? Oh, how have I been able to do that? I've done a lot of continuing education. I've attended courses and seminars. I've talked to other CEOs, people in business, and I've just constantly started honing the skills to become a good business people. Because people say, well, do you have an MBA? I'm like, no, but I'm a summa cum laude graduate of the School of Hard Knocks. You know, I've learned from failure what I don't want to do. I know that for sure. So yes, constant continuing educational process. Ways to keep in touch with a mentor. You agree with your mentor, like, hey, quarterly, let's connect. Or every holiday, like if it's a mentor from your hometown and you know you're going home, let's connect at every holiday, and I want to spend like an hour with you at the coffee shop just talking about what's going on with me. You know, let's agree to be confidential, and I'll tell you things that have been on my mind and heart that I can't tell anybody else, but you can't promise to tell my parents or any other mentors that you know. You know, you can create those relationships. If you could give someone only one piece of advice, what would it be? If I could give someone one piece of advice, what it would be? Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. You can do it. You got the juice. And don't let anyone tell you you don't have it. Believe in yourself and then focus on making you be the best you that you can be. I put a lot in a little bit of time, and I appreciate your patience around that. I certainly, if you ever want to link in with me and you have more questions, you can send them to me, and I'll be happy to send you my thoughts and answers. So not a problem. My Lionel Richie photo, thank you for asking. I'm a fraternity guy. When I was in vet school, actually, I pledged into my fraternity because I got early admissions into veterinary school, so I missed it in college. And Lionel is from Tuskegee University, the city of Tuskegee, and he pledged Alpha Phi Alpha, and I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. And so I was in Vegas, at at one of his concerts, and after the concert, he had a little function. He came up to one of the restaurants, and I immediately identified myself as a fraternity brother, and then he wouldn't leave me alone for like the rest of the evening. I think he was even trying to hit on my girlfriend a little bit. But so we laughed and talked and just talked about, fraternity and college days and things like that. And he's really a down-to-earth guy, and just he's very regular. And so, we took that photo, and he's a nice guy. Any other questions? These are all great questions. Well, I hope so. If you ever, like I said, want more insight, you can reach out to me. I will get back with you. People even text me. I will respond to your text. For you GOTs, send a raven. I'll find your raven and get the message. And glad to help in any way I can, because in all these different situations, somebody helped me.
Wow. Well, thank you, Dr. Robinson. I know for myself, I feel inspired after hearing your talk, and I know our students do as well. And so we really appreciate you spending some time with us today. I can only imagine how busy your schedule is. And so I appreciate your patience with all my emails as well leading up to this. And so
That was funny. I said, she's probably worried, but I do this, so I'm going to get it to you.
Well, and you did. So no worries. I was a little worried.
I felt
it. We really appreciate, again, you taking the time to speak to our students today, and what a way to kick off our first speaker series of the fall. And so thank you again so much for speaking today, and we'll open any final questions from the group for Dr. Robinson. Okay, well, Dr. Martin, if you want to go to the next slide. This is just a reminder of our upcoming speaker series, everyone. So please, mark your calendars, because we do have some, more great speakers lined up for the fall. And so, again, it'll be a similar format as the one today. And so we look forward to you guys joining us on those as well.
Hey, Lindsay, real quick. Kayla, can you unmute yourself? I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Okay.
So Kayla is the president of our Manners group that's on campus. I'm going to let her talk to you about, because Dr. Robinson will be visiting again on Monday if you wanted some more time with him. Kayla, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Kayla Benton. I'm president of Manners, Minorities in Agriculture here at LSU. So Dr. George Robinson is actually my mentor. I connected with him earlier, I want to say this year. And so he's going to be speaking at our discussion panel on what's it like to be a minority in your career field. And so he's going to answer questions more than about that. You don't have to be a minority to necessarily join in on the call, but he'll be giving a bunch of advice on that. And then you can also ask your own questions if you would like. And if you want to get in touch with that or have any questions, I can go ahead and put it in the chat what the Zoom link is, the ID and password for that. But again, if you wanted to ask more questions or anything, you can go ahead and join us at 5 o'clock on Monday via Zoom.
Go Tigers.
Thanks, Kayla.
Thank you, Kayla. And we just, I think the next slide talks about our Ag Career Prep Week. And I think Ms. Grant's going to put some information about it during the week and how you can register. But these are some of the things we have planned during that week. And if you heard Dr. George speak, he talked about business cards, he talked about the elevator speech. And so these are all things that you can come to our Ag Career Fair. Well, I guess not the business cards, my bad. But so ready to be back to normal, I guess. And so that's what I was thinking in my mind. But come ready for your elevator speech. Like you said, you never get the chance to make the best first impression. So be prepared to have your speech ready to go for that fair. And so again, this is kind of the schedule for Ag Career Prep Week, which is October 13th through the 16th. And we're partnering with Southern University this year on it. And so we're excited to partner with them. And we look forward to seeing your faces virtually for the many events we have scheduled during that week. And then again, I mentioned this at the beginning of our session, but this is the link to just provide your feedback for today's speaker, which I know it's all going to be great. But again, we love to hear from you guys. I want you to take a few minutes to fill out a brief survey about today.
Take care.
Okay, and thanks again, everyone. Dr. Robertson, thank you so much. And you guys, I hope you have a good weekend and go Tigers.